Alright, welcome back again to the channel. Let's have a look at Drive from 2011. As we see this Grand Theft Auto Vice City kind of font-like introduction being presented to us if you played that video game from the 2000s. So we hear the driver himself talking on the phone, played by Ryan Gosling, walking out with a bag and now drives away. Now gets to his destination to meet up with Shannon here, played by Bryan Cranston. You know, Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad. Good old Walter White. And he is here to give him his next car for the next job. Since driver here, he has no name. Or Ryan Gosling is a stuntman in this movie. Like he's a stuntman for movies within a movie. Funny. It takes the 2000s model, the Chevy Impala, popular American car. So he's made it there, and we see these two guys running in the moment. Ryan Gosling parked here and attaches his wristwatch to the steering wheel.
West on 7th Street Bridge.
To keep track of time. And yes, this is his part-time job as he is here for these guys, and he is their driver. And now unmasked themselves as they drive off. So far, pretty similar to Baby Driver, the movie from 2017, which I will do someday a video on. And yes, we are in Los Angeles, as usual, like most Hollywood movies. Now, Ryan Gosling has hit here to avoid the cops, and now drives here at this intersection, and what do you know? A cop car. And he made it to this crowded area, and don't be fooled by this. The driver is not shooting a movie here. And now onto the intro. Again, the same font for the writing in this movie like Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And the tune does sound pretty good. I usually don't like movies from the 2010s and 2020s, but this is actually very good.
But you're still the same.
And it's based off the novel or the book by James Salas, probably the same title. I didn't mention the title. And directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. That doesn't sound American, but okay, never heard of him. Now it takes the elevator back up to his apartment and joins in Irene, played by Carey Mulligan, if you've seen The Great Gatsby from 2013, which comes out 2 years after this movie. And the two live on the same floor. And now back on the job the next morning with Walter White, since he is the director. Yeah, he's the director with the driver dressed as a cop. Now the driver puts on his stunt mask and has to sign a contract, since that's part of the job.
The contract just basically releases the liability to the company in case you die, get maimed, or seriously injured.
A good thing he didn't get maimed, injured, or caught dead yet. So the driver's back on the road normally and now goes grocery shopping and sees Irene with her. As he walks out with his groceries, he spots Irene's busted car and now back in the elevator. And her son is named Benicio, like Benicio del Toro, if you ever heard of that actor. And now has a cup of water as Irene points out the picture on the mirror with Benicio's dad in it, who's in prison right now.
It's only part-time.
Sure, man, part-time job, alright. So he leaves and back and looks at the view. Next scene at Nino's as we see the director Shannon again, and this time Bernie Rose has joined in, played by Albert Brooks, as the two enjoy some Chinese food. And they are enjoying Chinese food at an Italian restaurant, Nino's Pizzeria, as the two talk about business.
I got the driver.
You just told me that.
So here comes in the guy who is the owner of the Italian restaurant, Nino himself, played by Ron Perlman. Now you know why Shannon had a limp on his foot in the beginning of the movie.
How you doing, Shannon? How's the fucking leg? I paid my debt.
So Bernie Rose agrees to give Shannon the money, but he wants to meet the driver first. So now at this NASCAR-like or Formula One-like racetrack, as the driver is practicing his driving and Rose meets the driver.
My hands are a little dirty.
So am I. Good driving out there.
And now gives a Shark Tank-like response.
I'll give you 300 for 70%.
Alright, next scene at this mechanic shop as Irene is here to drop her car off to the mechanic himself, the driver, who has no name yet. This movie is pretty similar to a bunch of 70s movies we've seen. Can't think of any right now, but it's pretty similar to most of the movies of this same genre from the 1970s. Shannon now tells a life story of how the driver came to work at the mechanic shop and even offers Irene to take a ride home, of course, driven by the driver himself. And now this song plays and just relaxes by this LA sewer river stop. And now back at Irene's apartment with Benicio already asleep. And is eager to meet up with Irene later on the weekend. And you gotta love the early 2010s where social media was still new and in development, and no one used it as much. Healthy distractions back then too. So now more shots of the driver and Irene enjoying the ride. Next morning, back on the job, as Shannon shows the guys the car they'll be using soon with Nino and Bernie, and now tells Shannon to show Nino the other car. As he now says hi to the driver and now tells him he is very important, and tells his life story being a movie producer in the 1980s, and even if he needs anything, he should just call up Bernie Rosier. So back at Irene's as Ryan Gosling is enjoying the time now with Benicio again, and now Irene opens the door for Cindy here, who probably is the babysitter for Benicio. But Cindy is actually her husband's lawyer, and he will be out of prison in a week. So enjoy Irene while it lasts, driver. And he looks worried and just continues to drive.
We're a team now.
So he's back at home fixing something while Irene has a party at her apartment, and we finally meet Benicio's dad. Standard is his name, played by Oscar Isaac, popular actor. And he even makes a toast to Irene for waiting for him. Finishing up his invention, driver leaves his house and sees Irene sitting down and apologizes for the noise from her place. And Standard is walking out with Benicio and meets with driver on the way and has a quick conversation, and they just leave.
Have a good night.
So driver is out driving, and that conversation with Standard was pretty weird. And now at the diner, as a past colleague says hi to driver and doesn't like being interrupted while eating. Now driver's back home and sees these two guys watching him, and they beat up Standard. And we thought as a viewer, Standard called those guys up to beat up driver instead for maybe being around Irene.
Shut your mouth. Or I'll kick your teeth down your throat and I'll shut it for you. Okay, it's a secret between the four.
So driver meets up with Standard. So they beat up Standard for money that he's owed, and it's interest being added up each time it's not paid. So whatever money he had originally, interest just keeps on adding up. Not too complicated to understand. So driver sees Benicio again and even sees the bullet in his hand, and driver will keep it for him for now. So he's at the diner where Irene works at and lies why Standard got beat up, and now wants the driver to come over again like always.
The fuck are you gonna do? You gonna go beat him up for me? Nice stunt guy?
And now at Irene's house for dinner, telling how he met Irene. And now driver leaves after having that weird dinner and steals this car. Now agrees to the job that Standard got beat up and agrees to be the driver for Standard's job so that he can repay back his debts that he owed for after getting beaten up. And we even meet Blanche, played by Christina Hendricks, who is just there to waste time. And now enjoying the dinner for the help of driver, for driver being helpful to Standard. And now on the job is Standard has to rob his pawn shop with Blanche. And here comes this car watching, and comes out Blanche by herself. And Standard gets killed, and now it's starting to look like that bullet chase scene, the Steve McQueen movie from 1968. But this one's quicker. Yep, similar stuff to Bullet, in my opinion. So driver and Blanche have made it and back at his house with all the cash. So he now makes a phone call after hearing that these guys will only give them 40 grand as their pay cut, Standard and Blanche. Meanwhile, Irene is being questioned by the police as Benicio picks up the phone. and wants to talk to Irene, but she's busy right now. So we're now on TV where we see the murder headline on Standard, and it was actually the pawn shop owner who did kill him for stealing, and now driver has suspicions.
You almost got us killed. And now you're lying to me.
And even locks the door and puts on his gloves and slaps her, which I can't play, and makes her talk that the bald guy with the Puma tracks from before, Chris Cook and Blanche, knew he was going to send a car there, but she didn't know about anyone getting killed. But Standard got killed by the pawn shop owner, so Chris Cook didn't do anything, right? So driver just sits there and thinks, and what do you know? And Blanche has been killed, as driver now goes back home and his phone ringing, and not a single iPhone in sight too. Just flip phones, which were still popular in 2010s somehow. And gets the bullets removed from his arm as Shannon's getting a little greedy here. And now tells Shannon about Chris Cook, the guy with the Puma tracksuit from before. And now at this underground strip club, and driver looking for Chris Cook, and he does have a hammer this time.
You know, a lot of guys mess around with married women, but you're the only one I know who robs a joint just to pay back the husband.
And I can't play the scene with a bunch of strippers everywhere, and after getting his hand smashed, Chris Cook tells driver it's Nino's money that was retrieved by Blanche and Standard. So it throws a bullet that Benicio had earlier down Chris's throat and kills her, and now the stripper hands driver a phone with Nino on the other line and agrees to meet up with driver for the money exchange, or the money drop off. So back at Irene's, his driver is there to talk to her, and even the lawyer is present, and tells her Standard had to owe a lot of money as he was in prison, and yells hear everything, and even slaps the driver, dumb. And driver still wants to come with her even after all this involvement with Standard and Nino and all these guys owing money.
Sorry, wrong floor.
And the same hitman that was speaking to Nino is also there, but these two don't know that. Now inside the elevator, he sees the gun inside his suit and finally kisses Irene as a distraction. And this is some pretty brutal kicking right here, and lets Irene out. And now meets up with Shannon again, and after knowing Shannon told Nino everything that driver is doing this for Irene and Benicio's sake, and even tells Shannon to get away. And back at Nino's restaurant as they discuss who the money belongs to, and even got another hitman. And Bernie and Nino are scared that the family in the East Coast, that money that Blanche and Standard stole that money belongs to the family in the East Coast, which is like in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If that family doesn't get the money, Bernie and Nino will get killed. And obviously the money and Bernie even kills the hitman, the new guy, just out of stress. So driver's back at the set with blood on his scorpion jacket and has a plan, and Bernie Rose breaks into Shannon's auto shop, desperate to kill the driver, and now wants to shake his hand.
Don't worry. Don't worry. That's it. It's done.
So he cleans a straight razor and puts it back in his collection of knives as driver sees Shannon's dead body and even gets teary. So driver has made it to Nino's with a bag of cash, wearing the same mask he wore in the stunt job he used earlier on set, and sees Nino inside and walks out to his car and follows the car with Nino inside it and just pushes it. So the driver checks everywhere, and we see the almost ending of Nino, owner of Nino's Pizzeria, and drowns Nino to death in the ocean. So back in downtown LA back in Los Angeles downtown, as driver calls back Bernie Rose and wants to meet up with the driver tomorrow at the Great Wall restaurant, and probably the same Chinese restaurant where we saw Bernie and Shannon eating the takeout from at Nino's Pizzeria. Probably got their food from there, from the Great Wall. And that's pretty obvious if you know your geography. And even leaves a voicemail for Irene, Driver does, since he likes being around Benicio and Irene. And my guess was correct. In the next scene, the Great Wall is indeed a Chinese restaurant, and Bernie is desperate for that money since Driver killed everyone that wanted it and wanted to deliver it. And now the East Coast family will never know about this money or these incidents.
Here's what I'm prepared to offer. You give me the money, the girl is safe.
But Bernie Rose can't guarantee that Driver will walk away freely, and has this crazy imaginary scene if something were to happen to him during the money pickup. And it wasn't an imaginary scene. They actually did stab each other, leaving Bernie getting killed, and of course Driver remaining alive. So leaving us a 40-second shot of Driver not blinking, and yes, he is still alive, and drives away, leaving the money on the road. I don't know who's going to pick that up. So with Irene knocking on Driver's door, meaning he's leaving Los Angeles since it's no longer safe for him, Irene will never see Driver again, neither will Benicio, leaving us off with 5 minutes of credits with the Grand Theft Auto Vice City font again. And that's it. Drive from 2011. Decent movie, not bad. Pretty similar to movies from the 1970s. Kind of similar to Bullet, in my opinion. Some of the similarities, like the car chase scene. Even similar to a movie I watched from the 70s called Charlie Varick with Walter Matthau, which I will do one day. So that's it from me. See you next time in Going with Style from 2017 with Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, and Alan Arkin. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Probably one of my shortest videos in a long time. Take care, see you soon, and watch away. And check out Drive from 2011.